reminders to help you as you're managing through comprehensive distance learning.
Сегодня будет программа,
Our agenda for this evening is to talk about the OCHS conferences.
будем говорить по
We have an
конференции
amazing
сейчас.
guest speaker, Dr. Elizabeth
Гость
Davis,
будет
who will be talking
Элизабет
about
Дэвис,
motivating during
будет
comprehensive
говорить по
distance learning.
дистанционному
I know our
обучению.
students are having some ups and downs, and you are in for a wonderful treat tonight with this discussion from Dr. Davis. We'll also be talking about student support opportunities.
Будем
And we'll
говорить
end our session
о
with
возможностях
questions.
учеников.
I believe that we'll be posting our question and
И
answer
будут вопросы и
section among
ответы,
you
секция
in the
вопросов и
chat.
ответов.
As
Можно
you have
их
questions, please feel free to
задать
use the
в
link
разделе
posted in the
чат.
chat box to share your questions.
I've posted it, so it's there.
Thank you. As a reminder, for those of you who may not have had a session with us yet, we have a wonderful OCHS administration. We have
Посмотрите на членов
Principal Carrie
администрации
Wilhelm,
ОСЧ,
Assistant Principal Dr. Erickson,
директора
Principal Stephen Futch,
Кэрри,
Associate Principal Mike Stead, our Dean of
Стейси,
Students, Lynn
и
Barry,
Тоби,
Glenn Foster, and
помощники
Associate Principal Andy Jones.
директора, и Майк Стейт, тоже помощник директора,
Our counseling department and other support staff,
и советники,
Brandon Coop, Megan McBride, Teresa
Джон
Kaufman,
Дюстен, Брандон
Dean
Коуп,
Serene,
Меган
and
Макбрайт,
Brooke
Тереза
Josephson.
Кауфман,
And
Найс
myself, I am
Михайлович,
the student success coordinator for our
и
building,
Кристин
working
Болдвин, тоже
primarily with ninth grade students. And we have
приветствую
Erica
всех.
Frumford, who works with our College and Career Center and coordinates programs for college and career futures. And so as you have been progressing through the last, we're halfway through week 2, you may have seen a variety of schedules. However, this schedule
У нас уже вторая неделя занятий. Вот посмотрите на расписание ежедневное, как у нас проходили занятия, вот понедельник, живые секции.
And then live sessions are happening on Monday, Tuesday. They're the same
Живые занятия по понедельникам и вторникам.
And then on Tuesday and Friday, you'll have periods 3, 4, and 5.
Периоды 1 и 2 и 3, 4, 5, четверг, пятница.
All of your periods 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So periods, depending on the day of the live session, the asynchronous experience will also be happening at the same time that the periods 1 and 2 or 3, 4, and 5 are meeting. If your student cannot attend class for whatever the reason may be, whether it's the live class or a full day of asynchronous classes, you do need to contact Holly Stone. And there is
Если ваши ученики не могут прийти на занятия по каким-то причинам, вы должны контактировать Холли Стон вот по этому телефону 500-785-8030. Это очень важно. Пожалуйста, пишите телефон.
There may be an attendance question posted daily in all classes so that students can check in. And there also will be opportunity.
Будет тоже дневник, куда ученики будут записываться, когда они приходят на занятия. Нужно отметить.
There will be office hours for teachers between 1:30 and 3, and those office hours are all posted in the teacher's Google Classroom.
Офисные часы с часу 30 до.
We do have our own website, and so this is really important.
Посмотрите на веб-сайт. Вот, прыгаем с
we've added a schedule section underneath the calendar area.
Вот календарь здесь, да, стрелка указывается.
If your student is not sure where to log in and find the Google Classroom or their Gmail account, they can click on our website and then click on Students, which will give them a link to the web links, which is the student class link. And you'll see
Если ученик регистрируется, да, можно зарегистрироваться через класс-линк. Либо можно через email. Нужно знать тоже password. Это будет все объясняется.
website has a lot of information. So when you
Сейчас
get to the
посмотрите вот
schedule,
на
so click on it, it will
расписание
take you to your
вот
schedule. And
здесь.
then there's this section at the bottom of the screen called Click Document Below for exact class time by teacher. One of the easiest ways for you to find what time your student should be in class, you'd click on this schedule and up would come a list of your teachers.
То есть можно нажать на вот название, на имя учителя, и все будут занятия указаны, в какое время.
They'll be able to explore their asynchronous work, which is found in the Google Classroom.
То есть там будут синхронные и несинхронные занятия.
Many of you have not. So if you haven't had a moment to talk with your students about their classwork, have them sit down with you and work through the Google Classroom with you, showing you where they find their links to Zoom, where they find their classwork, where they can find contact information for their teacher, and much, much more.
То есть всю информацию можно найти вот в таблице. Сейчас доктор Эриксон будет говорить о коммуникации и конференциях.
The conferences that we are having in about 2 to 3 weeks, we're going to
2-3 недели у нас будет конференция. 14 октября, 21 октября, с 4 до 7:30.
Adapting the model so that it can be the most flexible for the virtual format, and
пытаются разработать модель, которая будет более адекватна вот этим занятиям.
And so we'll be working on making it easy so that you can contact teachers and
то есть вы можете коммуницировать с учителями тоже через email. Можно назначить встречи.
Get our fall going with a round of conferences. We also wanted to make sure tonight that you knew that communicating with teachers and our communication with you is really critical to the success of
Очень важно иметь в виду, что вы общаетесь с учителями постоянно, любым способом, который вас устраивает. Email это предпочитается для общения.
Kind of all around, and we wanted to make sure that you knew that number one, emailing your teacher is a great way to make contact and to sort out
email это очень важный способ общения.
To make sure that we can help support your students.
И учителя будут помогать, поддерживать учеников и родителей. Будут новости публиковаться для 9 класса.
Give you some support and some resources and to really kind of help.
Будут предоставляться ресурсы, поддержка таким образом.
So that you can be up to date on the news, and we're expecting one.
Очень важно за новостями следить, что происходит.
And so we're very thankful.
Очень благодарны. За последние 7 дней все очень хорошо проходило, все довольны, как все проходит. Ученики успевают хорошо, но надо иметь в виду, что общение это очень важно. Пожалуйста, задавайте вопросы, ничего не... если вопросы есть, обязательно задавайте. Потому что это сейчас новая система образования, вот эта виртуальная система. И еще будет газета рассылаться от директора, вот с новостями, как происходит в школе. И вы должны получить вот эту вот повестку скоро. Там будет информация, учителя, телефоны.
is too much and how much is not enough. So bear with us as we figure out exactly what that balance is. But
То
we're
есть
hoping these
пытаются
videos will bring you smiles
работать
today.
над балансом, сколько давать информации, чтобы немного было и не
All right,
мало.
so student supports. Last time we met, we talked about student supports and when they would be starting. So we'll be starting
Поддержка для учеников.
on October 6th. So next
Октябрь
Tuesday,
6, да, начинается поддержка для
National Honor
учеников.
Society students, our upper leveled students in 11th and 12th grades, some 10th graders as well, will be supporting these lunch academies. These lunch academies will give your student an opportunity.
Первое будет вот это вот ланчевая академия. Это будет проходить вот по вторникам и четвергам с 12 до 1.
We have breakout rooms and students that are willing to host those breakout rooms. So if a group of students need to meet to talk in a safe space, that's going to be a great place for them. We also have After School Academy that will be starting on
И будет еще одна программа Академия после школы. Это продленного дня программа. 2 часа она будет продолжаться по средам, да, вот смотрите, по средам с 2 до 4, это после школы. Если вопросы есть, пожалуйста, присылайте их по e-mail.
All of this will be going out onto the OCHS website. So if you don't
И
remember,
эта тоже информация пойдет на OCHS веб-сайт.
we look forward to hosting your students so that they can be the best them. Dr. Erickson?
Yes, so this year, especially with starting out in comprehensive distance learning, we have started a new program called Family Connection Visits.
Мы начали новую программу вот недавно, это вот по взаимодействию с семьей. Это вот именно личные визиты, да, чтобы учителя вот познакомились с учениками и с родителями.
We sent an invitation out with our second ninth grade family newsletter that if you're interested, you can fill out a form. You also, we are going to be calling too, so that we can connect with your ninth grader to really help them feel integrated into the school. And
очень хотят, чтобы ученики вот интегрировались вот в школу, да, чтобы учителя их узнали побольше деталей. То есть как можно больше визитов, тем больше. И как только вот ограничения с ковидом вот будут ослабляться, то это будет больше, более облегчаться. И тоже, если опять вопросы, можно прислать
we have a whole new generation of pioneers hit our school here, and so we want to make sure we get to know them. And
то есть у нас есть новые ученики в этом году, мы их не знали еще до этого года, поэтому мы хотим познакомиться.
The form is in the chat, and you can also put it into the SurveyMonkey too, because we can harvest that for contacts too.
Можно какие-то пожелания и вопросы задать вот в разделе чат.
Thank you, Dr. Erickson. And if there's any questions, again, please feel free to contact me, as I'll be hosting many of these meetings to meet your students and help them be successful.
Кристин Баубен будет вот ответственна вот за эти вот.
Now it is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Elizabeth Davis. She has been.
И сегодня у нас будет гость говорить, Элизабет Дэвис.
Everything under the sun, from a principal in a brick and mortar environment to a coordinator CEO of an online school. She has more accolades than you can imagine in the online space as well as in the brick and mortar space. And she is a dear friend of mine who has just a motivation quality about her that will.
Человек, который много очень опыта вот именно по работе онлайн.
For us to figure out how to switch over to Dr. Davis. So if you'll give us 1 minute.
Сейчас мы будем переключаться видеокамеру на доктор Дэвис.
All right, awesome. So while they're figuring that out, we also make sure if you have a question to go ahead and put it in the Survey Monkey.
Если вот сейчас пока переключаю, да, камеру, если вопросы есть, пожалуйста, задайте их вот в чате.
Our guest, and then also questions for Dr. Davis. So there you go. Take it away.
So the floor is mine. First of all, Dr. Baldwin and Dr. Erickson, thank you so much for having me.
Спасибо доктор Эриксону и Кристине за представление.
It's always interesting because the issues seem to be very similar from state to state, city to city. So
похожие проблемы в штате, в разных штатах, в разных школах. Хотят, чтобы вы чуть-чуть включились в этот разговор. Вот к родителям вопрос. Вот одним словом, как вот вы можете описать вот, чувства, которые вот ваш ученик испытывает вот в эти вот дни?
That will allow you to join Poll Everywhere under my account. And then your next message.
Вот здесь вот есть Poll and вот если на это вот нажмете, можно ответить вот сюда, либо можно по тексту отправить. Вот.
And those directions are at the top of this slide.
So, Dr. Davis, you're saying that the phone number we're texting to is 37607.
That's correct.
Вот по телефон, номер телефона вот сюда текст можно послать. 3767. Либо через компьютер можно отправить вот poll.com. Одно слово, которое описывает чувство вот вашего ученика вот в эти дни.
Oh, and my screen is beginning to populate, so that's great. I see words coming up.
Сейчас появляются ответы на экране у Элизабет.
Should we see the words?
Nope,
yet?
you won't see them just yet because I didn't want you to feed off of each other. So what I wanted to see was what you were thinking, and then I'm going to show that.
Элизабет не показывает эти ответы пока, чтобы вы не получали подсказку. Этот вопрос задавали разным родителям в разных школах, в разных штатах.
And what you're seeing right now is the
Посмотрите, какие чувства вот разочарованы, скучают, изолированы, немотивированные, сонные. Вот посмотрите, вот здесь вот выделены слова, ответы родителей. Ученики себя чувствуют изолированными, разочарованы, очень скучно, в депрессии, потерянные, в нервозном состоянии, расстроены. Нет ничего положительного.
State of our nation is going to build something positive into our children, it may well be resilient. So congratulations to that person who has a child who would describe themselves as being...
Один родитель ответил, что ученик будет выстраивать.
What's happening on the screen. So moving on.
Будем сейчас
Have this.
про другое говорить
Where
чуть-чуть.
we are today is that our children are feeling isolated, alone,
Наши дети чувствуют изолированно,
and passive. This is not a pretty picture
депрессивны,
of America's
злые,
youth right now. We
смущенные,
see this in our
одинокие.
interactions. My bright, happy, fun kids. And I will share with you, I'm the mom of 6. My oldest child
Вот у
is
Элизабет 6
22, and
детей,
my youngest is 15, a high school sophomore. I have 2
32
high
до
schoolers this
15
year.
лет
This is a tough
разница.
time to be a high school student.
Очень
It's a tough
сложно
time
сейчас
because
быть вот
we don't really have the
учеником
psychological
в
coping
школе,
mechanisms that we adults have. And there
потому
is
что
a
у
tremendous
детей
amount
чуть-чуть
of
другие
negative emotion
механизмы, как
happening
они
in our world.
борются вот, ну,
We can't talk
с такими
about
проблемами.
motivating kids until we understand what kids need. And I always call this Maslow before Bloom's. And so the educators in the room are going to know exactly what I'm talking about. Maslow was basically a psychologist, and
Что
he
такое
talked
Маслоу?
about
Это был
what
психолог.
human beings needed in order to be successful, self-actualized, positive human beings. And you'll notice at the very bottom of this pyramid,
Посмотрите на эту пирамиду, да, вот этого психолога, что он, о чем он говорит, да,
self-esteem, that confidence is higher up on that. And finally, self-actualization, that ability to
смотрите,
accept the facts, to have a moral base, to be creative and spontaneous, to be able to problem solve in a critical way. Maslow really focused in on this. We're going to have a really hard time talking about motivating our children.
у нас будет очень сложное время, как вот будем пытаться заставлять учеников, вот, чтобы у них были, они были мотивированы, потому что они очень расстроены.
And to be really honest, as an adult, I have to say there are times when I don't feel really safe in the world. This is not an irrational set of emotions that our young
То
people
есть
are
это не
feeling.
только вот эмоции такие, да, это
So let's
действительно
move a little bit through Maslow and talk
экономическая
about ways to
ситуация.
get our kids, kind of centered in that place of security and safety. The number one thing is our children have to feel secure.
То есть наши дети должны быть в безопасности.
And I've come up with a few. I did some work with another group where we really brainstormed how we can create that sense of security for our kids.
Как вот мы можем обеспечить безопасность для наших
And
детей?
in fact, 2020, how many memes have you seen about 2020?
Вот в этом году, особенно 2020,
A meme that says, I was really kind of looking forward to the weather cooling down and the happiness of the winter season and all of the holidays associated with it. But it's 2020, and I'm 100% sure that we're going to have flammable snow this year.
как проклятый год, очень много всего происходит плохого.
2020's been a really, really hard year. It's hard for everybody. So I have a few suggestions for you. The first is to minimize conversations about negative situations.
Пытайтесь к минимуму свести разговоры вот о негативных вещах. Не говорите о финансовой ситуации.
To understand the intricacies of maintaining a household. And if there are deep, real conversations happening about how much money's in the bank, or do we need
Пытайтесь избегать разговоров, сколько денег лежит в банке, как закупить еду, потому что ваши дети, у них контроля нет над этими вещами, как денежные вещи.
I think when COVID happened and we were all watching on the news and looking at ICUs and seeing our first responders and our frontline healthcare workers, that was a really scary experience for us.
Очень было страшно смотреть, вот когда по телевизору показывали вот неотложную помощь, палаты с пациентами, ковидными пациентами в больницах, как люди умирают. Это очень страшно. Что нужно вот помнить, помыть руки.
about the time that we turned off the nightly news, because it's not the
То есть
nightly news.
иногда мы должны были просто выключать телевизор, компьютер, чтобы не приходили эти плохие новости. И пытаться детей посвящать.
And I would suggest that you establish boundaries for inputs. I no longer watch more than a half an hour of news every day. I do not need.
Я больше не смотрю больше, чем полчаса новостей по телевизору, потому что очень много негативной информации поступает. И я взрослый человек.
So I would suggest that you really consider talking to your students about the negativity that comes through all kinds of media and how to mitigate and build boundaries around that. The next thing, hope for the future. These are our young people.
Отстранить своих детей от негативной информации и
life full of wonderful relationships and opportunities. As my high school senior is, looking forward to college, we're really framing this around the possibilities for the rest of her life and the places she could go and the things she could do. And that conveys a hope that the future is good. We're going to move forward. We're going to do that in a positive way.
Ситуации, пытаемся какие-то положительные моменты, чтобы у нас было какое-то будущее, к чему стремиться.
It would be that all of us, adults, students, little kids, we all need to develop that growth mindset. Our kids are very easily.
Пытаетесь, чтобы у детей вырабатывался вот именно такие же вот.
Mom, I just don't want to get out of bed. I'm overwhelmed. I can't go to school. I'm too anxious. When a student says, I can't do this, I always say to them,
не говоришь, что они не могут что-то делать.
You can't do this yet. Yet is a magic word. Yet says there's something left in the future that's going to be great for me. Yet says
есть какая-то надежда в будущем, что
all students, all families, all adults to really switch that mode, not from the negative, but to what will happen in the future. Your children are all
перенести вот негативную сторону в положительную сторону.
every single day of the rest of their life. And I hope that for them, because this is what makes our lives rich and fulfilled and just beyond all imagination, what we could be and what we could dream for ourselves. Then the last thing is a very serious one.
Последний момент. Если ребенок видит, что отсутствие контроля, если вы сами не можете поговорить с ребенком или ребенок не слушается вас, можно обратиться к профессионалам. То есть бывают такие случаи в прессе, когда дети просто не могут встать с кровати.
They're non-existent. Those are real emotions for some adolescents, and I cannot stress how important it is for you to get that professional help, because you don't
профессиональную помощь, потому что вы сами этого сделать не сможете.
So now I'm going to have you do the same thing that we just did, but I'm going to have you do it, and I'm going to have you think about, and I have to set this up for us, so let me.
Сейчас еще следующий вопрос к родителям.
I'm going to ask you, I'm going to change the question a little bit.
Вопрос чуть-чуть изменим.
One word, and you will follow exactly the same directions. You're all logged in. But I'm going to ask you in one word, what is your hope for your child's emotional state today? If you choose a word to
одним словом, пожалуйста, опишите, какова ваша надежда для вашего ребенка эмоционального состояния сегодня? Какая у вас надежда для вашего ребенка эмоционального состояния на сегодня?
Will you repeat the question one more time?
The question is, in one word, what is your hope for your child's emotional state today? And I love these that I see coming up on the screen. So I'm so excited that I'm going to just share them as quickly as I can.
А сейчас вопросы появляются на экране у Элизабет, и она сейчас их покажет через несколько минут. Так, и вот ответы сейчас. Посмотрите на экран. Вот то, что родители хотят вот для своих учеников. Вот почему этот психолог Маслоу очень важен.
What is your greatest wish for your children? Actually, at the end of the day, I didn't wish that they all had PhDs, although I'm not
То
adverse
есть
to
как
PhDs.
родитель, да, родители не хотят, чтобы у всех детей были доктора наук, хотят, чтобы дети были счастливы, позитивны, мотивированы, уверены.
You're not likely to come up with a goal that says, oh, I want them to make $300,000 a year. It's a great goal, but is that really what you want for your child?
Что вы хотите для своих детей? Да, наверное, не хотите, чтобы они получали 300 тысяч долларов в год. То есть вы хотите, чтобы какая-то была цель у ваших учеников. Чтобы дети были уверены в себе, были в безопасности.
So very excited to see those up on the screen because it really is a contrast what we want for our kids and what they are currently living in. And how to
Это очень сильный контраст, да, вот то, что вы хотите для своих вот детей, да, и вот то, что вот они сейчас проходят, что они сейчас проходят вот во время ковида.
So moving on.
И передвигаемся на следующую тему. Таксономия по Блуму. Что вот это такое? Посмотрите на эту пирамиду. Это вот один вот из ученых, который образованием занимался, Блум. Помните, да, это вот фиолетовая
which is much more complex, requires critical thinking, requires imagination. That is at the top of this hierarchy. We can't really do anything about Bloom's until we've got Maslow straightened out. So we've talked a little bit about Maslow. Now let's attend to Bloom's.
Мы говорили вот по Маслоу, сейчас будем по Блуму говорить. Вот.
Any real learning situation is create an environment that's conducive to learning.
Попытайтесь создать вот, условия у себя дома, которые вот, ученики могут работать очень хорошо. Вот посмотрите на эти картинки, да, вот здесь беспорядок, да, много всего происходит здесь, и обед готовится, и книги, и играют.
Dr. Baldwin is thinking that the Davis children all are this model child on the right-hand side of the screen. I'm going to disappoint her and say that the Davis children operate in an environment that looks very much like the middle of the screen. A
Вот смотрите,
conducive
впереди
learning environment is different from child to child. And it's different from household to household, because what's happened in this
И, конечно, зависит вот от
learning is school
каждого
has also
дома.
invaded your household. And households weren't really set up to be schools, and schools weren't really set up to be households. So now we have kind of this
То есть,
different way.
конечно, дома, учиться дома это не идеально, да, это не школа.
So while I think that the student on the right hand of the screen probably has an ideal setup for learning,
Вот посмотрите на
it's not
правую
necessarily
картинку,
the
да,
version of
фотографии,
this
там
that
ученик
has,
все-таки
because we
идеальная
see lots of learning
ситуация,
materials that
когда он
can be
может
used.
все-таки
They're handy, they're right
учиться
there.
нормально.
You know, it's not going to win the good housekeeping award, but it's also a place where kids probably
То
feel
есть это не идеально, но это приемлемо. Вот эта картинка с правой стороны.
one of the things I loved about when I came in the room and Dr. Baldwin started talking about scheduling. Every single bit of research that is available that has been applied to children learning says that children flourish when they can have a clear expectation and predict what is going to happen next. Planning is the key.
Очень
Scheduling
важно иметь в виду,
is not a good
нужно
idea for
составлять
teenagers
план,
to
да,
be
план
sleeping until 1
для
o'clock in the afternoon.
обучения.
And what I love about what's happening at your
Вот
particular
посмотрите
school
календарь,
is
да,
it's
вот
very clear. It's
пример
very
календаря
obvious to students where they
2021
need to
год.
be, what they're going to be doing when they get there, and how
Где
to
они должны
plan
быть,
moving
в какой
ahead.
день, в какое
So
время.
I put these things here. Often what happens in unstructured online learning is that students get to within about 10 days of the deadline and they start powering through classes and learning nothing. They're simply checking the box.
То есть пытаетесь до последнего не ждать, да, когда ученики начнут делать задания, пытаться смотреть вот на записи от учителей.
So this is a huge part. You can't attend to Bloom's, you can't attend to the learning unless you have a plan for it. So this makes me feel very solid about what your school is doing. The other thing, and this also came up, as parents now with students working in a distance learning situation, it is more vital now than it ever was before for you to become a partner with the school and to link arms with
Вот
the school.
во время настоящей ситуации, да, стать партнером, да, именно со школой, да.
We're volunteering, we're laminating, we know what's happening in that school because we're in there as a part of it. But as our children get a little larger and
Как
they
ваши
become what I
ученики
refer to as
вырастают,
no longer fun-sized, but they're full-sized and they look
то
like
есть
adults.
они уже выглядят как взрослые, да, они не выглядят как дети.
We're not so present anymore in the life of the school. And as a result, we no longer really have our fingertips on the pulse of what's happening at the school. So 3 things that you can do. One, check your
Какие вещи вы можете делать? Да, проверять email и проверять их часто.
Because lots of information comes to you through emails. So let's
Много
say
информации вам посылают сейчас по e-mail от директора, от учителей, от помощников. То есть если какие-то непоправки, то есть вы не можете загрузить задания какие-то через компьютер, вы должны альтернативные способы послать email в школу.
Because those of us who have worked in an online environment for a long time, we often hear parents say, well, I know my kid did that assignment. He's online all day long. And I can be online all day long too. My favorite thing to do is hang out on Pinterest and get new bread recipes. Your kid's favorite thing to do online is going to be gaming. It's going to be social media. It's going to be all of those things. Kids can be online and look very industrious behind their screens, when in fact they're not accomplishing anything that has anything to do with
То есть
learning.
вы должны следить за то, что,
So
да, то, что, что ваши дети делают вот, на компьютере, потому что они могут отвлекаться, заниматься совершенно посторонними вещами на компьютере. Очень важно, чтобы они изучили именно системное образование.
That's a system you should be familiar with, and you should understand the tools that you have within those systems, because that's going to make you a more effective partner with the school as time moves on. So this is my favorite slide. Carrots, not
Смотрите на этот слайд.
the minute you say to an adolescent, this is mandatory, the adolescent
Называется
just internal, almost
«Морковку не палки».
how are you going to make me? I'm not a fan of sticks for adolescents. I don't think they work, and I think what they do is create an
Палки
adversary
не работают
between the
для
adolescent, the parent, and
учеников.
the teacher and the school. What I would really, really encourage you to do, keeping in mind that Maslow that we talked about, encourage growth mindsets. Look at how much you accomplished today. I wonder how far you can get tomorrow.
Пытайтесь
School is sometimes hard.
похвалить учеников, да,
You know, I mean, I will tell you, I'm not so good at Algebra 2 anymore. I am really not good at pre-calc, it turns out. So I can look at my
пытайтесь стимулировать вот своих детей, да, чтобы они, чтобы их развивался мозг. И пытайтесь говорить, думать вот о, насколько сложно вот изучение.
Learning is tough, and you need to acknowledge
Очень сложно изучать что-то. И пытайтесь их хвалить. И давайте им возможности. Да. Дайте знать своим детям, что вы признаете, насколько сложно учить. Пытайтесь помочь им найти свою собственную мотивацию.
Just a handful of others, a research-based, high-impact teaching strategy. So when I walk into a school where students have a goal, they're going to learn something, they're going to accomplish something, they're going to create something within a time period. This speaks volumes to me about the quality of the school. Every student in your school should have a set of goals, and you at home can help support those goals.
Ваша цель, да, это помочь вашему ребенку хотеть учиться, но не заставляйте их. Пытайтесь помочь. И уделяйте внимание Маслоу, Маслоу психологу, да.
Her goal is to have her entire weekly work done by Thursday at 2 o'clock, because on Friday, she wants to be down at his shop. That's a great goal for a 15-year-old. It's short term. It's very easy to measure. She knows what she wants to do, and she is in charge of that goal. She has complete power over whether or not she achieves that goal or not. So it's a wonderful goal. Remember, your goal is to help your child want to learn. I will guarantee you there is no way that you can make a child learn. You do not have that power. I wish we all had that power. I wish actually from time to time that my children came supplied with a USB port, and I could just plug in the drive and I could just upload it right.
Помнить, что ваш ребенок, если он в состоянии стресса, в состоянии беспокойства или боится, то способность учиться будет ограничена.
Then the last thing I would say is pay attention to Maslow. If you are having a bad day, if your home is stressed out, if your child is anxious, afraid, worried, their ability to learn anything is seriously limited. The brain doesn't work that way.
То есть
Thinking
мозг
what
так
the
не
goal of
работает.
learning has to be
Если,
is it has to feel safe.
если человек в
Doesn't have
состоянии
a whole lot of stress
стресса,
hormones, crazy
он не может.
energy. You want your kids to be in a place where they feel like this is a great place to be, and I'm happy and I'm safe, and now I can learn. Finally, I think this is the most important thing, and I know that Dr. Baldwin really works on this. Kids need a learning network, and it can't always be the teacher. In fact, it shouldn't always be the teacher. It can be you, the parent. It can be their peers, which is what those National Honor Society students are doing with those lunch academies and those after-school academies. Learning from a peer sometimes is a very safe place to learn. They can learn from knowledgeable others or tutors, but they also can learn from virtual resources. And I think this is where we sometimes sell our kids short a little bit. So I'll tell you a story about this. I have an electronic door lock on my front door. And every so often I need to change that code on that door lock. But you know, I never can find the paperwork that gives me the direction for that. And I was digging through drawers and trying to figure out, you know, how I was gonna do this, what the process was. It's very complicated. You've got to click these 3 numbers and then hit the red button. And we all have things like that in our house, right? My 15-year-old looked at me and she goes, you know what? You're not very good at this. She said, let me just go on YouTube and I'll get you the directions for this. Again, humorous story, but so true. There are millions of virtual resources that can assist your child. They might be videos on YouTube, they might be a podcast, they might be an audible book, lots of things out there, and encourage students to use these digital tools because they're incredibly powerful. So on that note, I would like to thank everyone for being here. I hope that I inspired you, gave you some tools, some tips and tricks of the trade. But my portion here is over, and I would be happy to entertain any questions.
Thank you ever so much, Dr. Davis, for providing that very, very in-depth view that will give many of our parents some great tools to be able to take home, you know, at their home, or sorry, they'll be able to take to their students and be able to really support them in a super positive way. And I think, Dr. Erickson, I'm going to share the screen again and focus on our question and answer session, which I believe may have been posted in SurveyMonkey. So I'll pass the mic to you.
Yeah, so we had a few questions, a little bit about the schedule. And thank you, Dr. Davis, for giving us a little inspiration on motivating and growth mindset for sure. Yeah, my children are all in their 20s and early 30s, but it's just yeah, it's the biggest challenge right now for parenting. And so I'm thankful for the words of support that you gave. There were 2 questions in the SurveyMonkey about schedules, and why does the schedule, number 1, have a range of times for the periods, the first simpler schedule that Dr. Baldwin shared. And then why are there different times for classes? And the reason that was done is because we have families with multiple students in the home that are in high school, and by having a range, and by so you see that there's 90-minute ranges for each period, but then 2 slides forward when it shows the time that you busted out. And so then teachers chose within that 90 minutes a 45-minute period, and it will be persistent and the same for that class for the whole trimester. And so we have recommended that one of the things that families can do is write out their child's schedule and the time, such as that 10:30 to 11:15 is the period for it looks like probably a first period class. And so then you will know when your student is in class. And we have some student planners that we have had posted in the mentor team classrooms. And so if you asked your student to in the mentor team Google Classroom, we have some planners that kind of assist with that. And because anyone in here who has more than one child knows exactly how many Zooms you can host at once. It tops out at about 2, sometimes 3, but that way there is a little bit of variability within the schedule so that teachers and students will be able to find themselves in a situation that their internet will be stable, and they can also it will be persistent throughout the whole trimester. So once you get the times down, then you can help support your student. And we had another question about wondering if the student can't get into Zoom, what should they do? And that is a common, it can happen. And so we are recommending, just like Dr. Davis said, is email that teacher. It is the quickest way for your student or you to reach out to the teacher and just say, we had a hard time getting in, or we can't find the link. We also, for every live session that happens, a teacher will post either the slide deck. Sometimes they will post a recording, but not every time, because as you well know, if you're the whole 45 minutes, it might have been question and answer, it might have been discussion, and there are different ways. There could be an audio file, but you have your student look into the Google Classroom for that day, and they can see what work might have been missed. And also really important and part of that attendance sequence is that if your student is marked absent, do not stress. You can email the teacher, but it is not right now in distance learning, absences per se are not in the same realm as when we are in brick and mortar. And we use the absences just so that we can make sure to help support students who need more support showing up. And that way we can kind of really help support. So that kind of wraps up most of the questions. There's a couple questions that we will email direct, but we are super thankful for everyone coming out tonight. And Dr. Baldwin, I think there's one more slide. Yes.
We have another family night, night 3, planned for you on October 28th at 7 p.m. We're going to be talking about accessing student supports, as well as what you can do if your student is disconnected. We're going to constantly come back to that theme of working with what do we do to support our students. We're also going to be discussing progress reports that will be coming out to you via email. Dr. Erickson, is there anything that we want to touch on real quick about the progress reports that will be coming out in week 3?
Yeah, so we will have, I think it is October 7th, which is basically week 3, even though it's in the middle of the week. And we, at 2-week intervals starting there, will have teachers will generate Synergy progress grades out of their grade books, so that you can have an update and know how your student is doing. And that, I think that the research does suggest that the more data we have on our students as parents or as teachers too, so that we know how they're doing and where they need support, that's part of the process. So you should be expecting that coming home in probably a week.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So yeah, that's coming.
And here, my contact information is available on the website as well as here. And many of your students have seen me in the help desk space that is often around 12 to 1 p.m. in the Zoom link that's posted out in their Google Classrooms. And they're more than welcome to reach out at any time for any sort of support. Again, I want to thank Dr. Davis for extending her time tonight to us and allowing us to have an opportunity to hear from a different source of information that connects us globally to other parents that are out there stressing with us and worrying with us and trying to find ways to make it more positive and engaging for our students. So I send you a warm thank you from OCHS for all of your time and dedication today. So thank you. And I appreciate all of our families who came out this evening. If there's anything that we can do for you, please make sure you contact us, and we'll make sure that we respond in a way that supports you. Thank you for this evening.
Thank you.
If as you're leaving, you still have questions, you're welcome to send them over to us. We'll keep that space on the Monkey Survey available for you should you have any questions that you'd like to write. And we'll be able to connect with Dr. Davis if there's anything further that you have that you'd like to have her answer for you. Thank you again for this evening.
Awesome.